What's going on, everybody? It's Ryan Heath with Fantasy Points here, and welcome to Data Points. This is the show where I walk you through exactly how to win at DFS, at your prop betting, and your seasonal fantasy football leagues. How can I do all that for you in one video? By using the insanely valuable information within the Fantasy Points data suite. So let's get going.
What? Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
So with data point number 1, we are going to start here with a Terry McLaurin stat. So as you can see, I'm in the advanced receiving section of the data suite. We have it set from weeks 3 to 5. That was really when Jaden Daniels kind of turned it on at first. This year was in week 3. So since then, as you can see, Terry McLaurin here leads the NFL in air yardage share. So he's getting all those targets very deep down the field. And also, if we kind of scroll over here, you'll be able to see that McLaurin is averaging 17.5 fantasy points per game over that span since week 3. That would rank top 10. That would be wide receiver 9 over the full season. But it gets better, right? As I was saying, McLaurin kind of gets all of this production on those deep targets, and I'm going to show you exactly how much. So over here, we have our depth of target filter in our filter section. And what we can do is we can actually filter this entire table to only show us targets that were over 15 air yards. So if we just hit apply there, we're going to be able to see with that custom depth that we set, just who has the most production on all of those deep targets. So it's popped in here. We've got just everything in the table now is only showing targets with 15 plus air yards. As you can see, Terry McLaurin, 12.5 fantasy points per game just on those deep targets, second behind only Jamar Chase over that span. We can also look at the expected fantasy points per game, showing what we would expect him to score based on the volume of those deep targets, 9.7. So performing a little bit above expectation, but honestly, for something as volatile as deep targets, that's better than I was initially expecting coming into the week. So yeah, I'm pretty bullish on Terry McLaurin's ability to get open deep and to continue this production he's been having. And another reason for that is if we flip over here to the defense section, as you can see, I've just got it sorted by receiving yards per game. But if we go ahead and type in 15 to the depth of target filter, so again, doing the exact same thing we just did, where we're only going to be looking at deep targets, 15 plus yards downfield. The Ravens, as you can see, have allowed the second most receiving yards on those deep targets this year. They've been getting beat deep a lot. So I love Terry McLaurin in DFS this week. I'm likely going to be on his receiving yardage prop overs. Just love the shootout environment here for the Commanders and the Ravens. So let's go over to our next data point number 2. This one's going to be a Derrick Henry one. We're staying with this game here. So I am in our offensive line, defensive line matchups tool here. And this one's super easy. It kind of does all the work for you. We just give you a rush grade as well as a pass grade for every single offense. This is based on the adjusted rushing yards before contact per attempt. And it's kind of compared and contrasted with the defense. So as you can see, the Commanders allowing 2.75 yards before contact per attempt. That's second most. The Ravens are generating with their offensive line 3.62 yards before contact per attempt. That is the most. So the Ravens have the best rushing grade in this matchup with how the lines just kind of look. And there's other reasons to be in on Derrick Henry this week, right? So the Ravens are 6.5 point favorites. As we know, Derrick Henry kind of famously game script sensitive, and the Ravens have played into that this year. So we're here in the run pass report now where you can see kind of just the run in the pass rates in all these different situations. We got first half, second half, inside the 10, inside the red zone. But over here, when the Ravens are leading by 7 or more points, which again, we would expect in this game because they're heavy favorites, they have the 5th highest run rate in the NFL at 60.4%. So yeah, aside from just Henry's splits himself, if we're projecting a positive game script here, I just really like how this sets up for Henry, another guy that I'm going to be wanting to get to in DFS, even though he is priced up. And I'll give you just kind of another little bonus on Derrick Henry. So schematically, this is also a really interesting matchup because now we're here in the advanced rushing defense table. So just seeing how well or how poorly each team is defending against the run. As you can see over here, we've got our zone concept runs broken out with our man gap concepts. And as you can see, we've just sorted by the man gap yards per carry, and the Commanders have allowed the most yards per carry on man gap concepts of any team this year. They are allowing the 4th highest success rate on those concepts, 57.7%. And then we can see over here, now we're in the individual advanced rushing section, just sorting again by the man gap yards per carry. Derrick Henry, 6.36 yards per carry on man gap concepts. That ranks 5th best of 59 qualifying running backs. So just so many different angles for why I want to be in on Derrick Henry this week. Very excited to play him. Very excited to take those rushing overs. And then finally, let's move on to data point number 3. So this one, honestly, is maybe a little less clear of a fantasy takeaway. It is just more that it made my jaw completely drop and just kind of made me wonder what exactly it is that we're witnessing right now. So I am here in the advanced receiving section, and what I've done is I've split out every player by week. So you'll notice we have Garrett Wilson in week 5 here, Justin Jefferson in week 5, Cooper Kupp in week 1, Malik Neighbors in week 2. It just makes every week its own row so that you can compare different weeks against each other kind of all at the same time. But all I've done here is I've split out this season by week, and I've sorted by expected fantasy points per game. And it turns out Garrett Wilson had 45.7 expected fantasy points per game this past week. That was because of those insane 22 targets. Now, yes, Wilson only dropped 29 fantasy points. I understand there's been some discourse about that this week. How could he not have done more when he saw 22 freaking targets, right? Isn't that insane? The part of the reason for that is going to be that only 14 of those targets were actually catchable, which is a pretty clear indictment, just kind of everything that's going on in New York right now. And I should mention that this 45.7 expected fantasy points per game, not only is this the highest XFP in a single week that we've seen in 2024 by a pretty good margin, it's actually the highest we've ever seen in the fantasy points data era. So if I were to, I'll show you guys 2023 just for the sake of it. But once that pops in, you're going to see Devontae Adams, I believe, was at the top for 2023. But regardless, yeah, Garrett Wilson just insanely big volume. Just no one else has seen this in the last 4 years. There you go. It's Devontae Adams. This is the next closest since 2021 is 37.9 expected fantasy points per game. And then kind of on that catchable targets point that I put a pin in earlier, I just wanted to point out that kind of over the larger sample. So now we're here in advanced receiving, and I've just sorted by catchable target rate here. You got to scroll down a long way to get to Garrett Wilson and his catchable target rate. So at 73.2% on the season. It's bottom 12. So yeah, just has not been put in positions to succeed despite the insane target volume, especially since last week. So that is all the data points that I have for you guys today. And now that you've seen how powerful this Fantasy Points data suite can be, make sure you go to data.fantasypoints.com to sign up for access to the data suite for yourself. We have a standalone data suite subscription, or we have the all-in package. That also will get you access to my DFS picks, my prop bets, informed by stats like the ones in this video, as well as obviously other award-winning seasonal DFS and betting content from the whole entire Fantasy Points team. So thanks, guys. Signing off.